Hey guys, Cain Paisley here, coming out today with 5 licks from Rocky George. Rocky George might not be a household name, but amongst the guitarists who know, I've always heard him talked about in pretty high regard. He's a pretty unique player, best known for his time with Suicidal Tendencies, and I think he was absolutely perfect fit for that band, especially in that late 80s, early 90s era. Quite like atmospheric, quite dark and moody with his playing, but also had like the shred chops to deliver the intensity that's required for a band like Suicidal Tendencies. A lot of what he does is very typical of the era, lots of sweeping, lots of tapping, lots of Floyd Rose sort of abuse, but he still manages to have a unique voice. Today I've pulled together 5 licks that might serve as a good introduction to his style for those who aren't yet familiar with him, or just 5 licks that will be useful to add to your trick bag if you've already heard him and like his sort of style. The backing track that I'm using, as well as the tab and guitar profiles, are all available on my Patreon page, so if you do enjoy this and those things would be useful for you, please go check that out. Consider subscribing to that page because you'd be supporting me and that would help me to make more of these videos, which I'd very much like to do. So without further ado, let's jump in to these licks. So this first lick, one of the, I guess, slower licks out of this set. This first little phrase of it I really like. Coming out of this classic, what I always call like a box shape, like this rectangle of notes. It's just getting that to groove right. I'm being quite scratchy with my pick, quite bouncy, like that Hendrixy sort of feel. Then we've got this idea moving up the E natural minor. 2 sets of 4 notes, and that's obviously something you could apply. That's like a sequence anywhere, and that's really nice. I can either do that all picking or with a hammer on. I quite like it with a hammer on. I like that like pick hammer pick 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 hammer pick pick sort of bounce. They're a real classic. That's, you know, super standard. Of that if we're into our rock soloing at any sort of level. But then this is really nice. Rather than staying on that for a while, as would be tempting, I'm going to slide from this B note up to E, so it's like outlining part of the E power chord, and then I've got another B up here, so it's an E power chord again, and I'm kind of letting those ring together. You've got 2 kind of choices here. You can either let the open strings ring underneath that, and we get that, like you hear the springs rattling and the bar actually shaking. That I quite like, but we might not want that, so I could be muting that with the heel of my hand like this, or I could try and use like my middle finger to do that. But then we're getting a different kind of squeak coming from the bar. So you want to be mindful of the different noises coming out of your bar. Go. lick's making good use of the blues scale, kind of sequencing sets of 3 notes coming down, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but not in triplets. And we're doubling up that pattern, coming down to our minor third here. Ending with a bend the second time to our root note. That's a lick that sounds really good at different speeds. It sounds great really, really fast. It sounds good as a steady tempo. You can also add in a hammer on, just to add a little bit more kind of movement to it as well if we wanted. So this lick's making use of sweeping in like a pretty standard minor arpeggio shape. What I would do is actually ignore like the leading 3 notes and practice this from the actual start of the bar, so just descending the arpeggio. So if we're in E minor here, I've got my 5th B. And I just get the hang of that first, just coming down that. And then I practice going up that. And just that round and round and round until I get really comfortable with that, and then I'm going to kind of add in the sequencing to it. So he starts out, the leading is going up those just before the beat, and then that's my actual one. And I'm going to double up. I'm going to sequence down these triplets to start. So I go back up a note, and then just come down the arpeggio, and then it loops. One thing that he kind of does with this sort of sound is you want to practice sweeping evenly, but he kind of rushes them. So I say rushes them, it like speeds up and slows down, and it gives it that sort of manic sort of feel. But obviously your 2 hands are going to be working in sync to feel where that push and pull is. Sweeping isn't my strong suit. I find it quite an awkward technique. I've always preferred like string skipping and tapping when I get that wide interval sound. But sitting and spending time with it has always been worth it, even if it's not something I use every day. And at the end of that, we're ending here, which if you think in our E minor sort of style, is a lot more standard sort of classic rock sort of fare. Can be a little bit awkward getting to that from that sweep. But again, if you've got your delay on and you've got a lot of gain and you're doing that speeding up and slowing down, you can kind of adjust to that. So long as it lands there and what's happening before is in key, you can get away with quite a lot. A little bit of finger tapping in this lick. It's a fairly standard sort of run. So I've got my pentatonic kind of classic 12th position E minor. one thing when I'm getting people started with tapping, I always say is just play the next pentatonic note, the next note in the scale, and just get used to hammering around with that. So I'm going to do that on each string until I get to the 4th string. I'm actually going to play the 14th fret there, should be the 16th fret, sorry, should be the 17th if we're sticking strictly to pentatonics, but that makes it the 9th or 2nd of the scale, which is a common sort of thing when you're playing with minors and you want to add that little sense of sort of kind of like melody, and I don't like to use the term emotion so sort of vaguely, but when you know, it's the Eric Johnson classic thing. If I'm playing pentatonic and I land on that 9, it's just got an emotive quality to it. And it actually, in this instance, because of what we're doing with tapping, it makes it easier because we can stay tapping the same fret as we played on the last string as well. So the actual rhythm that I'm playing with this is I'm going 17th fret, tapping, pulling and hammering, and then doing the same, rather than doing a hammer on, I'm doing a pull off with my 3rd finger instead. And then I just do that down this pattern on each string. And then I'm just working down the pentatonic. So I'm trying to avoid picking as I'm doing that, and kind of using the bar to like exaggerate the slides. You get that sort of scooping sound to it. And that's just coming straight out of. So you've got to make sure you're very like confident with sustaining those notes as you slide down. You want very, very little. In fact, I've not picked once in that, I don't think. So you want to be able to get that with just left hand strength. So this 5th lick, we've got a lot slower, a lot more space, definitely fitting in with his more melodic sort of playing. I'm playing my E note, and then bending it up a whole step, and coming down. Now those 3 notes, the fretted notes, I'm fleshing out an E minor, but that bend that I'm doing is bending up to that 9th again, or 2nd, however we want to look at it. We've got this F sharp and a key of E, so that really melodic note. So it's an easy shortcut to give something that quality, and we can see it happening again here. Wobbling a little bit on there. Find a lot of the time in this sort of style, especially on these RG style bridges with the loose bar, I can get that nice expressive vibrato by going behind rather than over the strings, so it depends on how I'm feeling with that. And the rhythm of what I'm doing there is really like riding the beat, and that continues into this next part, and this is just a really nice stellar movement. I've got the F sharp and G, and then B and C. Something about those two side by side, I just think it's really, really effective, and it's so simple. that with bend, slide, adding pinchers, things like that, using your bar. It's a really simple melodic little cell of movement, but there's a lot you can experiment with it. So thanks for checking out this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and picked up some useful ideas for your own playing. If you've not already spent some time digging into Rocky's playing, I would definitely recommend going and checking out those early 90s Suicidal Tendencies albums. There's just some fantastic tracks, great riffs, great hooks, definitely great soloing ideas in there. He's one of my big influences, and I didn't really realise how influential he was. I've been working through some of his things with a student recently, and just kind of like, oh, I've been doing this for years, and I'd forgotten that's where I pulled it from. It's so deeply entrenched, especially some of the Floyd Rose stuff. And I don't really play tons of metal anymore in my own sort of playing day to day, but these sort of ideas have really entrenched themselves into my style. So remember, you can apply things not just to the place you learn it, always try and use ideas outside of the context you've learned it in. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything else that I'm posting. Please consider checking out my Patreon page where we're able to get access to backing track, tab files, guitar profiles, and you'll just be supporting me, helping make more videos, which, as I say, I really want to be able to do. And yeah, there'll be a part 2 to this as well, because there were so many licks I couldn't keep it all in one video. So there's already a part 2 on its way, more of the same. So if you've enjoyed this, keep your eyes open for that, and I will catch you all very soon.